Nice to see you. This week we're going to look at a song by The National called Fake Empire. This came in as another request from someone on Instagram. If you signed up to the newsletter, you can also just email me with songs you want me to break down, like the lyrics, the production, and we're going to talk a little bit about the production this week, as well as the lyrics, because this tank's just like casually licking my hand. It's like 7:30 in the morning here, so I don't know what his deal is. But yeah, we're going to look at the production as well as the lyrics a little bit this week, because I think that with this particular song, you can't talk about one without the other, really. So I've got the song here, I've got the lyrics. I love The National. I haven't been actively listening to them lately, and so it was cool, like, request to get. I was like, oh yeah, The National, of course. In a swathe of mid-2000s or early mid-2000s bands that where the singers sung up really high in their range, The National hit me as like a really interesting alternative to that, and gave me some hope as someone with a voice that naturally sits a little lower. I guess it's in the world of like, the Iggy Pops and the Lou Reeds and the Nick Caves of the world, and whichever other baritone, slightly spoken vocals you want to talk about. But let's get into it.
Stay out super late tonight, picking apples, making pies. Put a little something in our lemonade and take it with us. We're half awake in a fake empire. We're half awake in a fake empire.
So, okay, let's talk about just the piano for a second. What's really cool and interesting about that, I saw someone on Reddit like going, I don't know what time signature this is in, and I'm like, yeah, I get that. It's in 3, and you can kind of feel that pulse, but it doesn't feel like a waltz, which would be dun ga ga dun ga. It just feels like straight counting in 3s, 1, 2, 3, 1, without any kind of accents. Someone will probably jump in and say it's actually in 6 or whatever. You might be right, but I hear it in 3, but not an obvious waltz thing. What's interesting though is if you think about what 3/4 time does, being waltz time. Later in the song, they're talking about dancing, and a waltz is a dance. So. That's just an interesting tie-in with the lyric. But there's this, the thing that kind of throws it off a little bit for the listener, I think, is there's this counterpoint sort of rhythm going on. Which is, syncopated. So it's easy to think, wow, like that's in a weird time signature. It's a classic, we've heard that. I've heard that in like pop punk songs, Blink-182 songs. It's got that like, that sort of, what key are we in? I love chord progressions like that. It's like I'm playing it very like pop punk, but you can kind of hear how that is. But I think hearing it on piano, an upright piano that's kind of got some character to it, and has that syncopated thing happening as well. It just keeps it interesting. But it also, I mean, that chord progression makes me feel emotional straight away. It's got this sort of like hard on sleeve, but grand, like something, this is about something important, which is fitting again. Fake empire. Empire is, important, big.
Stay out super late tonight.
And then we've got the first verse.
Making pie.
What I want to talk about, what makes the chorus here. It's really interesting. So if we just go back a little bit in the verse, same chord progression this whole time. And then we just get this change where we go to a minor chord.
We're half awake in a fake empire.
So the vocal, it's not like the vocal all of a sudden goes up and announces like the chorus is here and, everything else. He's in the same sort of tone of voice, same register. The rhythm's a little different, but the thing that the big change is the chord. So we've been going. Yeah. So we're just all of a sudden going, I think that guitar's in standard tuning, but we're going to the A minor there.
Tiptoe through our shiny city with our diamond slippers on. Do our
So there's
ballet now.
There's the line about dancing.
Bluebirds on our shoulders, we're half awake in a fake empire.
And then we get the little tinkly guitars coming in. Okay, now we're starting to get into the like more amped up, exciting part of the song. But there's loads of tension, right? Because it feels, the other thing that chord progression does is it makes us feel like this is going to get bigger. It's small, it's little now, it's just on a little upright piano, but that chord progression just tells you like, oh, I can imagine the bass and the drums and, it getting big, whatever else comes in. There's lots of stuff that comes in this song later on. One of my friends made a record when she was in a band where Aaron Dessner from The National produced the record. And she told me that one of the big things he would always say would be that for him, like he had this rule, like every 7 seconds, I think it was 7 seconds, some little change has to happen. So I thought, all right, we should check if he was adhering to that rule at this stage. That's just something interesting. I like those little reminders you can give yourself in the studio because it can help with decision making, and it's just like a fun, exercise. Like, does something change every 7 seconds? I guess it's to keep it interesting and just, but it's a fun little creative prompt or constraint, I think. The word prompt now is ruined by AI. Like, that's gone now. You can't say creative prompt because it just makes you think of like ChatGPT. Wow. Listen to the way that it's not tracked to a click. Like when the bass drum comes in. There. Do you hear that? That's like, it's just human timing, which is so refreshing to hear. The drum sound is very much like in the room. It's not like this big beefy rock kick that comes in. It's very, band in a room, natural. You can hear the walls. That drum part was in when growing up. I mean, being a early to mid 20s person in Sydney, Australia, and I'm sure it was like this all over the world. Every indie rock band ripped off that drum groove, or some variation of that. Like, it was like a deconstructed drum groove almost, where all of a sudden drummers started to go, oh, you can like think of the drum set in pieces again, and it doesn't have to be this big, groove, kind of like what the Velvet Underground did almost, where, the drummer was standing up playing the drum set like this, and it was like, oh wow, it's like a percussion, it's a percussionist almost.
Turn the light out, say goodnight. No thinking for a little while. Listen and try to figure out everything at once. It's hard to keep track of you falling through the sky.
Okay, that's a huge line. We're going to get into the lyrics in a second properly, but that is a huge line. And listen to what happens, the variation on the melody on that line. It's the only time we hear that melody. And that's important because it's telling us this is an important line.
It's hard to keep track of you falling through the sky.
Falling through the sky. He doesn't vary his melody much in the song, and so by holding back in that way, any variation, you're like, whoa, which is powerful.
We'll have a win in a fake empire. We'll have a win in a fake empire.
What's amazing about this band, in my opinion, is I never thought about at the time of when I was first listening to this, and like I said, every indie band was like ripping them off, especially, and that drum groove, like especially. But what is interesting about this and so effective is how much groove the drum part has. Like it makes you want to dance. Like it really makes you move, which is hard to do with a groove like that because there's a lot going on. But I guess it's almost like a disco-y type groove because you've got the hi-hats, doing 16th notes and all of that. But he's a good drummer. How often do you want to do this to a song in 3? Like, I think that's an achievement. Wow. Is that a trumpet or some kind of horn, or is it a string instrument, like a bowed instrument, like a violin or a viola? Amazing. It sounds like a horn section, a brass section that's been arranged by someone who doesn't play brass. And I mean that in a good way, like it's made it really interesting. Because it's not something you would normally hear a trumpet, assuming that's a trumpet, play. This might not be the influence or the way that they did that, but to me that's the kind of part that you'd almost program, in a sequencer or a synth, like a hardware sequencer or in the computer. I could imagine a synth doing that part, and it's cool because in my mind anyway, it's how like electronic music and music made with computers has influenced like a rock band, which is essentially what this is. But it just brings this really interesting flavor to the part that's played by an organic instrument. And especially how it develops like that. There's all of a sudden it feels like there's like 3 or 4 loops going on at once of different horn parts, and they just are getting louder and louder, almost engulfing the whole band, the drums and everything. Incredible. Like, what songs do you think of when you think of like a horn breakdown, a horn sort of climax at the end? I think of what's the Radiohead track? Ding 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 ding, whatever that one is. I'll put it up on the screen. I'll find it afterwards. That's got that. And then there was another track. What's that band? Block Party. Block Party had a song that kind of like took that Radiohead idea and did it themselves at the end of the song as well. But this is done. You know, it's all, maybe it's a nod to that, but this is done in its own way. It's very much like it's not as jarring as those 2 examples, I think. Like, not as, it's unexpected, but in a different way, in a more gentle way. So really, really cool. But the arc of the production's awesome. Let's talk about the lyrics a little bit.
Stay out super late tonight, picking apples, making pies. Put a little something in our lemonade and take it with us. Put it half away in a fake empire. Put it half away in a fake empire.
So when I read those lyrics, or I hear those lyrics, I'm thinking, it sets it up. I'm thinking straight away about a moment like that I've had where I've stayed out super late with someone, and it feels like there's a romance element or a closeness to it. Picking apples and making pies, put a little something in our lemonade. Picking apples and making pies is interesting. Like, when I first heard that, I was like, what is that about? But it makes you think of childlike kind of imagery. Like, that's something you would do when you're a kid. But I suppose making pies and lemonade makes me think of like picking apples and making pies makes me think of America. And then the title being Fake Empire, I'm like, okay, there seems to be an American thing going on. I don't know if the song was like considered to be a political song. It seems unavoidable to read the title and not think, oh, they're singing about like America or something. But then you read picking apples, making pies, lemonade, and there it's like the fact that it's almost like kid-like language, and then also they're putting a little something in their lemonade. It's like that there's an escapist element. They're escaping something, or they're up to mischief. I don't think I've said mischief in a few years. I don't know. And then we've got the chorus. So let's check out verse 2. The language, though, at the moment, the language at the front of the song is very much writing like you talk. Stay out super late tonight, picking apples, making pies. Put a little something in our lemonade and take it with us. It's pretty much writing like you talk. Put a little something in our lemonade's almost straight talk, because it's kind of a little bit colloquial.
Tiptoe through our shiny city with our diamond slippers on.
All right, so now we're starting to see the language change. So the melody's the same. We've got the musical elements that are added. Like there's a sort of a pad thing and like the high other like tinkly things that come in, and that's giving us the sense of shiny city, diamond slippers. So we're hearing all these like production elements that come in, musical instruments that come in and suggest, you know, that atmosphere, those words, and the tone, the written voice of the language shifts as well, and we start to get more into Lost World a little bit, because we're all of a sudden, it's our shiny city. It's not really writing like you talk. It's more evocative. And then with our diamond slippers on, now we're like getting into kind of Lost World voice, where you're starting to really, it's not, I don't think you'd call that a metaphor, but it's, you're getting into fanciful language, and it's almost like a, you know, a made up world that you're describing, and it's more imaginary. And that's that example of that old world language that makes it feel ceremonial and grand, and that's the effect of that voice shift. Bluebirds on our shoulders. And that's like straight out of Disney, like bluebirds on our shoulders. That's a beautiful line, and it makes you, yeah, it's like, oh, we're somewhere else. You know, we're in an imaginary place. We're half awake in a fake empire. We're half awake in a So there's this guitar on the right. See how it's just doing this, an E note. Oops, the whole time, right? Throughout the whole verse. We're half awake in a fake empire. And then in the chorus it moves, but it waits, and that effect of staying on the E note and just pedaling there for the whole verse, it creates this extra degree of tension that then gets released when the chorus hits. That's cool. So you can see how the voice shift in the lyric, you know, creates this effect, and the musical elements play into that. But things like the choice that they've made with that guitar, there's a sense of tension, which is important to this song, right? Because it seems that it's about escaping a reality, because you're going out, you know, with someone you're close to, you're getting a little drunk, you're like creating this world that's just your own, and then the chorus, it's like we're half awake, we're unaware, so on some level, where you're maybe willfully unaware. And so the tension needs to be there, you know, somewhere in the instrumentation as well. And that it's things like that do it. The piano, the constant nature of the piano, I think adds a bit of tension too. Because it just feels like it's building and building and building. So then the band's in. And we get this little instrumental bridge. Amazing restraint to not put really a lead instrument in there. And the drums, I guess it's the drums moment. We're setting up all this space so the drums can do the fill and announce themselves. And now we're not dancing, right, anymore. We're back at home, but the drums are making us dance. And it's a good example of an interesting clash of elements, right? Because the lyrics are saying one thing and setting one scene, we're back to writing like you talk, basically, or completely, I would say. But the drums, like I said, they're making a stance. It's like, oh, hang on, what's this tension here? And it makes you think, even not actively, about like something else is going on beneath what's being said in the lyrics. It adds a tension that, again, we need the tension in represented in the music.
Listen, I'm trying to figure out everything at once. It's hard to keep track of you falling through the sky. We're halfway.
Beautiful. So it kind of, I'm just gonna change camera here. So we also get an extra voice in that chorus too that comes in, which I just noticed.
We're halfway in a fake empire.
Someone doubling an octave higher.
We're halfway in a fake empire.
And we talked a bit about this last week in the newsletter, but the effect of doubling, right? Doubling the melody an octave up, it draws the melody out, makes you, as the listener, you're listening to the shape of the melody a little more because there's just more things doing it. It's cool how they've left the low vocal single. Like they haven't doubled the low vocal and the high vocal. They've just added the high vocal. So it leaves the intimacy there. So you're still listening to the lyrics as a focus. But the octave up, it does give you this sense of the nature of the melody and the shape of the melody a little more.
Falling through the sky, we're halfway in a fake empire. We're halfway in a fake empire.
And then we've got that little that change in the bass, which adds a bit more tension at the end. Really, really cool. So not a ton going on in terms of shift in written voice, but it shows you how effective it can be just to choose one shift from writing like you talk. And you kind of lulled into this sense of, oh, I'm just being let in on this moment, and you know, I'm hearing and understanding the language. It's very straightforward and very like I'm used to hearing in everyday life. And then all of a sudden in verse 2, we're tiptoeing through the shiny city with our diamond slippers on. It's like, oh wow, so we're somewhere else. You know, it's grand, and it's this new scene in this imagined place, and it's, you know, it's the language that achieves that. It's, you know, you can set the scene in a lot of different ways, but you know, in 4 lines, there's not a lot of room to like create the effect of a fanciful, imagined place, and they do it in 4 lines, which is really amazing. It shows you the power of how varying your written voice can it help you achieve that. Awesome band, awesome song. I really love that. I'm going to go back and listen to that whole album, Boxer. All right, thanks for watching. If there's a song you want me to look at in this way, drop it in the comments. I'll see you in the next video.